Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. This is a video that has been quite a long time in the making. I think probably I've been wanting to do something of this nature, an ode to the East Lyn maybe, a bit of a thank you Lord for the river, and something of a showcase maybe of the kayaking that has taken place on that river and the joy that I've shared with friends on that river over the course of the last 2 years of living in Devon. But I didn't really know what to call this video, and I hope that people don't mind if the title ends up being a little bit clickbaity. It's something that I've put quite a number of hours and a good bit of effort into, so I would like for it to do well, I suppose. But yeah, without much further ado, here are my top 10 reasons why I love the East Lyn. Reason number one, proximity. And this probably reflects the silliness of this video, because I had toyed with the thought of calling this my top 10 favourite rivers in the UK, and then seeing how long it would take people to realise that every single one of them was the East Lyn. But a part of the reason for my having a real soft spot for this river is simply that it's my home run. It's the closest thing that I have to my house, which is a very fortunate position to be in. I appreciate having grade 4/5 on the doorstep is a real boon, especially in the UK. But that is reason number one for loving it. It's right there, and I'm incredibly grateful that the East Lyn is so close. Another possible title for this video was going to be my top 10 Crux Gorge laps of this year. There are far more than 10 laps worth of footage here, and that barely scratches the surface of the number of laps that I've put through the Crux Gorge in the last 2 years. However, there is something, I would say, fairly representative about these clips that show off the quality of whitewater that is in the East Lyn that I've been fortunate enough to have on my doorstep. I'm definitely overlapping with some of the upcoming reasons as well here, for sure. But, you know, proximity, having it nearby, definite plus point, because that has enabled me to get out on many, many dawn runs, as you can see in this particular clip that we're starting with, starting fully in the dark, hiking up the river, and then at first light putting on. There's something just so incredibly special about doing that with any river, let alone one of this quality and steepness. And that feeling of going to work, having already put down a couple of laps, nothing beats that. Reason number two, as I've already alluded to, has to be the quality of whitewater that you find on the East Lyn. And I don't just mean that it is high quality, although that is true, but I mean that it is of a specific quality that is quite rare in the UK. It is steep, it is continuous, and it's not particularly pool drop kind of steep. It is steep boulder garden. You do occasionally get air underneath your boat on the East Lyn, and that is a rarity in the UK, but it's more about those smooth, flowy moves between tricky, rock-strewn rapids that I think make the East Lyn so satisfying and such a unique quality. It was this unique quality in part that led me to really want to dial in the consistency on the Crux Gorge and then to race it. And I'm very grateful that that opportunity came. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in this video. Reason number 3 for loving the East Lyn simply has to be the location. The natural environment that surrounds the East Lyn, this old English woodland, is stunning. There is so much to love about it. It's just ethereal, slightly otherworldly, utterly beautiful at all times of year. If you manage to catch one of those rare days at the end of summer, early autumn, or, you know, late spring, where the East Lyn is still up and you have full foliage on the trees, it's beautiful, greenery all around, stunning. And as you can see here, autumn days when the colours are changing on the trees, it is just a stunning place to be. Besides that, there is a particular quality to the light at Long Pool, if you catch it at the right time of day, which is beyond stunning. There's something just magical about it, the way that there's all the moss around and the water dripping down from that. I can't get enough of it. It is wonderful and I love it and I praise God for it. By contrast, reason number 4 highlights another unique quality of the East Lyn, but it is the man-made elements of the East Lyn, or man-cultivated, perhaps I should say, elements of the East Lyn. And by that, I specifically mean the way that the East Lyn channelizes and passes through Lynmouth out into the ocean. For anyone who wants to do the East Lyn, or has done it, you'll know that the absolute golden way of doing the East Lyn is when you have a little bit of surf and you can paddle straight down the East Lyn, out the mouth, through Lynmouth and into the surf, and enjoy that as well. But there's something very special about paddling a continuous stretch of grade 3-ish straight through a built-up town, but a very quintessentially quaint Victorian or older English seaside town with these beautiful spanning bridges and, yeah, wonderful architecture all around. There's something very special about it. Reason number 5 for loving the East Lyn is the people. Now, unlike the River Dart, there isn't a huge community of paddlers surrounding the East Lyn, but there are some, and those that have chosen to make this unique North Devon gem their home are an excellent bunch. I am particularly very, very grateful to Joe, who has been a stalwart friend and companion on the East Lyn over the course of the last 2 years. He's pretty much always out when I want to do a lap, and that has been of great value. So I hugely, hugely appreciate Joe. And he's also just one of those people that is solid to paddle with, great fun. But there are many, many others, and some who have been around faithfully looking after the river and looking after other people down the river for a very long time, Pete Thorne being one of them. Absolute legend. If you weren't already distracted by it, then yes, it is Wednesday night in the village. It's bell ringing night, you can tell. I just wanted to say very quickly, thank you so much for tuning into this video. It really does mean an awful lot to me. And I want to do something that I have never done before on this channel, and that is to give a shout out, because I recently learned from an old friend of mine who lives in America that he and his son Walter have been enjoying my videos, and I just wanted to give Walter a shout out and say that it's really exciting that you're enjoying the water at the moment, and hopefully you can get out and enjoy some kayaking soon for yourself. Yeah, big up you, well done, keep it up. For everyone else who's watching this, that's not something I'm going to do ever again probably. It's not something that I ever thought would happen with this channel, but it's really cool. Thank you so much for bearing with me in all of the weirdnesses of this channel. Thank you for persevering with it and for supporting me where I've put videos out. Thank you for all the likes, the comments, the shares, all of that good stuff that have enabled this channel to grow to the point where it is now. With all that said, let's get back to the list. Reason number 6, though, is not the people who are local to the East Lyn, but the people whom the East Lyn attracts. Because of its, I would argue, rightful prestige in UK paddling terms, there is a certain level of reverence, I think, that people hold for the East Lyn. It is a consequential run, especially the lower gorge, and therefore it encourages people to make sure that they are ready for the East Lyn before they come to it. And that means that showing first timers down it is a really special experience, because people come with this sense of reverence and excitement, and rightly or wrongly, perhaps a real expectation of what the East Lyn will be like. And I hope that most of them go away satisfied, seeing just how good it really is. But it also means that there are many folks in the UK paddling community for whom a trip down to the East Lyn is a really special and regular experience when they can get it. And so for me, having paddling friends all over the UK who would choose to make a pilgrimage down to my local run has been really, really special. Being able to catch up with old friends and rally some laps together. I think probably a couple of my favourite ones were this lap here with Dan and Jamie, which was just all-time great fun, boogieing down, and another lap which I don't know if I have any footage of, but a great lap with Mr. Tom Rainey, blasting down together on a very high water East Lyn. Great fun. Reason number 7 why I like the East Lyn is a very practical one. The East Lyn holds its water phenomenally well. People don't realise, I think, just how well the East Lyn holds its water. It drains a large section of northern Exmoor, and therefore it holds its water very, very well for such a small river. Yes, when there isn't an awful lot of water in the ground, it can spike up and down, or simply fail to rise entirely when the amount of rain might make you think it should. But if there is a decent level of groundwater, such as we had over the course of the last winter, then with the slightest bit of rain, the East Lyn will rise and stay up for days or weeks at a time. This past winter, it being so wet, we, I think, had times where the East Lyn did not drop below 1.55, which is a very manageable low level, for about a month or two at a time, which is unreal. Pretty much from end of October through till mid-February, the East Lyn was consistently up for days, weeks, months at a time. And that just makes it the most phenomenally consistent training ground, a place where you can come back to day after day after day, dial in the lines and grow in consistency as a kayaker. While we're on the subject of the East Lyn holding its water very well, let's just briefly talk about gauges, as this might be useful to some folks who are coming down to the East Lyn. The East Lyn has a physical gauge at Watersmeet. It's one of those old school red cross means no, green tick means yes kind of gauges, but it also has a calibration next to it, which runs from 0 up to 2. There's also an online gauge which you can access through the River Predictor app or website, and this also measures in meters and covers from 0 up to 3-ish. However, the two are not exactly analog to one another. They don't necessarily match up. So for reference, naught at Watersmeet, i.e. the line directly in between red and green, is bare minimum scrape. That is about 1.46 meters on the online river predictor gauge. So bare minimum scrape. You can get down the East Lyn at this level. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. You're going to be leaving a lot of plastic behind, and especially if you're in the shoulder seasons of autumn and spring, you might encounter some fishermen and they might justifiably get a bit annoyed at you. So, when could you get on, and when would it be good? 1.5 on the gauge at Watersmeet corresponds to about 1.65 meters on the online river predictor gauge, and that is a decent low end of medium flow. About 1.7 meters online is golden all-time flows on the East Lyn. 1.7 up to 1.8 is beautiful medium levels, and you will have a wicked day out no matter what else if you go at those sorts of water levels. So that is about 1.5 on the physical gauge. 2 on the Watersmeet gauge corresponds to about 1.72 on the online gauge. So if you want to go into the East Lyn and have a really good day out with decent medium flows, then you're looking for 2 or thereabouts on the Watersmeet gauge, which corresponds to about 1.7 meters. Anything above 2 meters on the online gauge starts to get pretty spicy. And if you're pushing up towards 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, that is when it starts getting seriously fight clubby in the East Lyn, and you are likely to be portaging significant sections of the river, especially the Crux Gorge and possibly Long Pool as well. It's great fun, but you need to be prepared for it if you're going to go in on a day like that. And I would suggest even the heading to the West Lyn and doing a little warm-up on there is a much better option if you're unsure. You can check out my video about the West Lyn, link up in the top left-hand corner right now. And this brings me to reason number 8 why I love the East Lyn. It is a place to hone your skills. If you want to become a competent grade 4 and up kayaker, then the East Lyn is the place to do it. Yes, your skills should have been developed on lower grade whitewater to the extent that you are turning grade 3 into grade 4. You're doing grade 4 moves on easier whitewater. However, if you want to actually get into that steep creek environment and learn to put those skills into practice in that environment, there is no better river than the East Lyn. And I think the place that I learned this most was in seeking to race the East Lyn, specifically the Crux Gorge. I had this vision of putting together a little grassroots race where people could come together and try to put down fast times on the Crux Gorge as a time trial. And so I invested the time in walking up and running lap after lap after lap on this gorge to try and dial in the lines and get fast times. And yes, there were mistakes along the way. Yes, I got it wrong. Yes, I ended up on my face quite a few times. But what it bred in me as a paddler was consistency. It enabled me to know exactly where the paddle strokes needed to be placed in order to have clean lines and keep the bow riding flat and high and dry. And that is something that, whether you're on the East Lyn or not, I would encourage people to give a go. If you are getting bored or stagnant in your paddling, try pushing yourself to race the sections that you regularly paddle. And not only to race them, but to rehearse racing them. Don't just try and do them fast, but try to work out exactly how to do them best fast. because that is how you will breed consistency in your paddling. I've kind of lost count now. I think I'm on number 10, but I don't really know. But this leads me very nicely to briefly talk about the race. I am so thankful to the Lord that I was able to put together the Crux Gorge crown. For those that haven't seen that video, I'd really encourage you to go back and check out that edit that I put together of the race day back in January. It was such a privilege and a joy to share the river with so many amazing folks and to put down some really fast times all together on the river, and then go for a humongous joy lap from Brendan down to Watersmeet and then down to the sea with the air, with everybody there. Wicked time. A final reason to love the East Lyn is the fact that it's not just the one river. Of course, it is quite isolated from most other whitewater in the southwest. However, the East Lyn represents not only the east but also the West Lyn, which is a great little warm-up run, as I've already mentioned, and Hoaroak water, which has a couple of proper waterfalls, some of the only, I would argue, proper waterfalls in the southwest of England. Now, they're not your kind of Mehdi style, big, proper air under the boat kind of waterfalls. They're definitely more slidey than that. But if you want to get a little bit of free fall and a sense of some real steepness, then the Hoaroak is a great little bolt-on to the East Lyn. Anything from about 1.65 metres on the online gauge and up will give probably enough water in the Hoaroak that you can get down, but the best way to look at it is to paddle down the East Lyn from Brendan and physically just hike up and take a look, and if it looks good to go, it probably is. That's not me endorsing doing it low. I personally would suggest waiting until it has a decent amount of juice in it, and even then you're probably only going to be touching the final 2 drops on the Hoaroak. However, it is a phenomenal little bolt on the East Lyn. So there you are. Those were my top 10 reasons why I adore the East Lyn. Perhaps tell me yours in the comments. What's your favourite river? And give me some reasons why. And I'll look forward to reading some of those. There's nothing left to say except thank you so much for watching and for sticking around all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. We've got some tutorials coming up soon, guys, so hold tight for those.